All right? So, did you notice that it's still strange? I'm like, oh, who's she talking about? That's me, right? You hear the company names. Poor Kid Real Estate, Poor Kid Enterprises, and Poor Kid Films. So those are three of my companies that I named because I was a poor kid. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a rags to riches story, but don't turn your brain off. Most of you, raise your hand if you've ever heard me speak before. Anybody in here? So one, two, so a few, okay. I'm sure you guys do a lot of passports. I get a lot of positive feedback. I've done these for twice a year for 3 or 4 years now. And first couple I did were just, somebody asked me to speak at Lamar. I said, sure, that'd be fun. I'd do some business class talks, this and that. This one was more of a volunteer. From what I understand about passport, basically you get some credit for a class for doing it, right? Is that accurate?
Yep.
And so some people come in and they sleep. Some people come in and they're on their phones. I'm not going to judge you if you do that. All right? You're here, you get your credit. But you're here. So you might as well listen, because what I'm going to tell you really can help you. Not because I'm great. I'm not any more special than any one of you that's in here. I'm not. We're all genius somewhere inside of us. Whether you ever find it or not, that's up to you. All right? So I'm going to tell you my story, and then I've actually got some guest speakers here today. So they were sitting in your exact spots within maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah,
First time he saw me, he was in your seat. He was playing football for Lamar. This is Peyton McVeigh, and I was tight end for football for Lamar. And came to the class, sitting there, and all of a sudden I saw his eyes kind of light up, and he got excited about what I was saying. And he said, I've been to a lot of these passports. I've never had one that influenced me like that affected, no pun intended, on how to influence today. But he said, I felt like I wanted to get to know you better. I wanted to understand you. I wanted to like learn from you. And he was really fired up. And he sort of started what I've done since then, which is I offer, at the end of this, I'll offer a mentorship to anybody in here. All right? So just so you know what you're up for. I can help you. I promise. I don't care where you're at. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your major is. I don't care what your job is. I promise I can help you. But most of you won't reach out to me. I'll just kind of give you the punchline. Most of you will find a reason why not to. By the time you get done with this, unless you're just trying, you're going to have enjoyed yourself. You're going to have learned a few things. You're going to laugh a little bit. You're going to probably make fun of me at the end of it at some point. That's okay too, right? But so in here, you're going to see value. And then most of you, over 90%, will find a reason not to reach out to me for that mentorship. All right? I'm going to show you some examples of some people that did, but there's quite a few examples of those that didn't reach out, right? And they're in the same spot or worse than they're in. All right? So, my name is Forrest Hamilton. It sounds real fancy when you say Forrest Bentley Hamilton. My story is, my dad was born here in Beaumont. He was raised in Waco. Played football for Baylor University. He's just your all-American boy. I mean, he was, 6'4", 250, handsome guy, journalism degree. I mean, he was just when you think of all-American boy, he's that guy. Then he went to Vietnam. And I don't know if anybody have any parents or grandparents. I guess you guys are pretty young that were in Vietnam. Anybody know anybody? Okay. All wars are bad. They're all the same. And there's some differences, but really they're all terrible. They're atrocious. Terrible things are done. And many times they have to do terrible things that they don't want to do. My dad was drafted. They haven't had a draft since. And he was drafted, which means he basically he won the lottery. They actually called it a lottery, right? He gets this thing in the mail that says, hey, you're with this group. Well, how they did it then is they would actually put you, not with some random guy from Nebraska. You went in basically with your buddies. You went in with your high school or your college or whatever. I mean, they put you because they felt like you would fight harder for that guy that you've been going to school with for years than you would for some random person, right? Mm-hmm. Which is neat because you kind of got to go over there with everybody. The problem is you didn't really come back with very many if you came back at all. So he went over. He was a chopper gunner. So those who don't know what that is, went up in a helicopter, big gun. He shoots the big gun. That helicopter got shot down 5 times while he was over there. 3 of the 5 times, he was the only survivor. So now imagine that for a second. When right on the surface, you're like, wow, that sucks. But get deeper into that for a moment. You're in a foreign country with people that are shooting at you, trying to kill you, right? Whether they want to or not, they're in the same war, right? A lot of times it's the little peons that are having to shoot at each other when the big people trying to make some money or whatever it is, or not having to get their hands dirty. And he's in their jungle, he was just shot down by them, and now all of his friends are gone, they're dead. Best friends in the world. Like the guy that was the center for his football team. Best friends, they're still in the helicopter or somewhere in the jungle, and he's having to trek miles back to his LZ, his landing zone. So imagine that process. It doesn't matter who you are, that's going to affect you. It's going to hurt you. You're going to feel guilty, angry, sad. This isn't going to be a downer. By the end of this, you'll feel a lot better, okay? But his process was, he went from all-American boy to, he wanted nothing to do with the government. He wanted nothing to do with the United States of America. He was just angry, and he was sad, and he had PTSD, but they didn't call it that then. They called him a tripwire vet, which means, if you trip a wire, bomb goes off, they felt like they were real on the edge. He couldn't get jobs. He went to Seattle, left here, went up to Seattle, and tried to get a job, and as like a clerk at some store, and they're like, no, you're a baby killer, you're a woman killer. Like, these are word for word what they said to him. He was like, I didn't have a choice. It didn't matter. People judged him because he fought in a war that he didn't want to fight in. So just imagine that process. So he says, I'm done. Goes up in the mountains and he becomes a mountain man. Literally, a mountain man. Big, long beard, long hair. Right now he looks like Santa Claus. If you ever want to check him out, davidhamiltonwinery.com. And you'll see some of my dad, right? He looks like Santa. Just an awesome guy. So he goes up there, and he's just living off the land. Chickens and rabbits and goats and pigs and no running water, no electricity. He delivered me, literally, into his hands. It's not one of those things where you say literally and you don't really mean that. He literally there was no doctor there. He was it. So I'm born. He delivers me. No running water, electricity. And this is the 70s. This isn't like the 1930s. Right? So in the mid-1970s, late 1970s in Washington State, I'm about 20 miles from a town called Redmond, Washington. Those that don't know what Redmond is, that's where Microsoft is, that's where Nintendo, this is not the dark ages, right? So I grew up, and I'm getting on the school bus. So imagine getting on the school bus smelling like chickens and rabbits and goats and pigs. You're wearing moccasins and a buckskin shirt that has antlered buttons on it, and the kids are wearing Nikes and polos. I was the easiest target in the history of targets. The biggest nerd in the group could pick on me because I was way down here. I was below the social ladder, right? And it wasn't very much fun. And it didn't get very fun for quite a few years. I had exactly one friend, Uno, still my best friend to this day, right? But what happened is I believed everything these kids said, I believed was true. I believed I was ugly. I believed I was poor, much more than financial. I believed everything they said, I took it to heart. And so I was it was a sad little story, right? And then something crazy happened. I was pretty good at sports. So all of a sudden, all the kids that were trying to figure out how to make me the last pick, they were trying to make me the last pick so I could still be on their team, so that we could win. Because I didn't have a bicycle, we didn't have a car. If I wanted to go to my one friend's house that was 6 miles away, I was running. Right? And so, I had to get one gum joke in there, right? And so I could run for days. I was pretty fast. I wasn't the biggest guy, but I was strong. We have a sawmill, that's what I did. So I had a chainsaw before I could write my name in cursive. So it was like, I was a hard worker. So now I get on the field, and I can hit the ball a little farther. I can run a little faster. And I got this fire inside of me because at some point you get tired. You get tired of people picking on you. And that's usually when you snap and you go postal or something really bad. Well, in my case, fortunately, I learned to channel some of that into being really good at something. I wanted to get back at everybody in a way. It wasn't healthy. It's not what I recommend. But I wanted to get back at everybody for the way they treated me by being better than them at stuff. So I had this competitive desire that you cannot even fathom. It was intense. Still is sometimes. You can ask these guys when we're playing ping pong. We look like we're in the Olympics, right? I'm diving for ping pong balls still at this, at 4 years old. So I get pretty good at sports. All of a sudden, I'm a sophomore in high school, and I'm a backup running back, right? And all of a sudden the guy in front of me gets hurt. The stud gets hurt. The second guy gets hurt. 2 broken bones, and they're like, who else knows the plays, basically, right? I'm like, me, and I'm little, I'm like 160 pounds at the time. And so now I'm going in, I got all these varsity guys, and they're like, don't drop the ball, don't fumble the ball, let's do pass plays, right? Well, they give me the ball, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, in my mind, I'm building up, I'm like, I'm going to score a touchdown. I'm going to score a touchdown. Wherever I am, just give me the ball, right? I'm just going to run through somebody. I ended up scoring 3 touchdowns in the game. One's a kickoff return. One ends up being two of them are running touchdowns. And I remember this moment that was like my life shifted. I don't know if you've ever had a defining moment in your life that you can really remember. But I remember these guys that used to be like basically spit on me were now picking me up and looking at me like I was their friend. Looking at me like I was their hero in a way. And it happened like that because of a game that they really wanted to win. And all of a sudden, what did I have for them? I had value. So if you can, we're here to talk about influence. I wanted you to get to know me a little bit from the past, right? Because when I talk about what I realized in that moment is now I could go have influence. I could be who I thought I always had wanted to be, which is part of the cool kids. I wanted to be in the cool group. I wanted to go to the parties, and I wanted to, just have a girlfriend and be nice, right? And all of a sudden I had it because I excelled at something. Because I was really good at sports. So all of a sudden now I'm from the bottom of the barrel to like homecoming king, literally, in a matter of weeks. And I became a made-for-TV movie. I mean, I got rid of my one friend. He wasn't cool enough for me anymore because now I was hanging out with the seniors and stuff, right? And one day I'm like, how did I become this? How did I drop my one friend? So I had this midlife crisis while I was basically a sophomore, junior in high school. By the end, I was friends with everybody. What I had been given, the gift I was given, was a brutal childhood when it comes to school. Anybody ever was bullied in here? Anybody? You don't have to raise your hand, but if you ever were, you know that there's a pain that kind of stays with you forever. I'm 40, I still feel that pain sometimes, right? Don't matter whether it's your skin color, whether it's your size, whether it's your poverty, it doesn't matter. We've all been bullied probably in some way, or we've been the bully. So we've got both ranges in here right now. Quit beating yourself up if you are the bully, or were the bully, and quit beating yourself up if you were the one that was bullied. The secret to both is influence. Write this down if you don't have a pen or put it in your phone, whatever. Influence is the currency of life. I'm not going to do a PowerPoint. Usually I've got a PowerPoint. If you want it, you can get to me. I have it all set up. I can just email it to you. But influence, when I tell you it's a superpower, here's how much of a superpower it is. I'm not about to brag on myself, all right? I'm uncomfortable once you read my bio, right? But I want you to understand what's possible when you add influence to your life. I came down here to play baseball in 1994. Got a scholarship to play at Lamar University. I was so excited, right? Came down here and it was a different world. Texas turns out it's really hot, right? And it was humid. I couldn't breathe when I'm running to second base. I was kind of done with it. So I ended up going to get into the gold business. That's what I do now. Universal Coin and Bullion is our business. We do gold and silver, one of the largest in the world. But I got into this gold business, and I was relatively successful because I was so competitive. But then I did something crazy. I started to decide I really wanted more. I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to talk to anybody. I had certain clients that I'd get on the phone with that just owned me. It was like my business, it was like this business guy or this business lady that when I got on the phone with them, they ran me around like a little puppy. And I couldn't stand that. So I started to study. How do you communicate with people? How do you have influence over them? Is there a science to it? And there was. So write this down. It's a book called Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini, Cialdini. One of the greatest books you'll ever read. He talks about the 6 principles of influence. And he's not just some doctor sitting in a college somewhere that has a doctor next to his name because he's got a PhD. This guy's legit. He was a garbage collector, right? I mean, he was basically your garbage man. And he decided he wanted to learn about what made the world work. Why is it that when he walked into a car dealership, he walked in to get a drink of water and he drove out with a new car? How did that even happen, right? Why is it that when he walked in to buy one thing in a grocery store, he walked out with $200 worth of groceries? It wasn't his intent, but it happened. Well, it's not an accident. It's not even really because of him so much. It's because of what these people and what these businesses are doing regarding influence. Okay? So he started to study it. He went undercover. It's pretty neat. He goes undercover and he figures out that there is a science inside of it. So I'll walk you through what the 6 are here in just a couple minutes. But he became a car salesman. he actually got into the Hare Krishnas. I don't want to say it the wrong way, but basically he studied different religions. He studied even some cults to figure out how do they make people drink the Kool-Aid. Literally, how do they do that? And as he studied it, he started to realize there were certain fundamental things that were similar in every single thing. Why is it when a big white apple flashes up on a screen you immediately want the new iPhone? How does that happen? Well, it's a series of things that have been put into your brain over a long period of time. So as I studied it, I started to get more successful because I would study it and apply it. I know what you don't want to hear. You've been in school for like 13 years at this point in a row, maybe more, 15 years, some of you. You don't want to hear that as soon as you get out of school, you need to study some more. But that really is the answer, is studying. It doesn't have to be books. It doesn't have to be CD sets. You don't have to have a PhD. But it's about studying life. It's about studying successful people, right? Somebody, Brian Tracy, this guy. Yeah, this is me here, by the way. Long hair, don't care. But Brian Tracy wrote a book called Psychology of Achievement. I recommend that one for everybody too. And I listened to it when I was working on I wanted to be a top sales guy, back to that competitive desire. I was like, I got to be salesman of the year, right? It was just something that was important. I wanted a little trophy, whatever, right? Don't run away from that stuff. If you've got that in you, use it to your benefit. It'll help you. If you don't have it in you, it's probably in you somewhere, you just don't know it yet. But this guy wrote this Psychology of Achievement. And I'll never forget, he said these words. It said, you become what you think about. Your dominant thoughts become your reality. What you constantly have in your mind and hold in your mind, when you have the matching emotion of it, it's what's created. And I didn't really like that. I was like, nuh-uh. Because I'd be rich. I'd be happy. I'd have a wife and kids. But I didn't have those things. And then I realized, well, wait, what did he say in that sentence? You become what you think about. And because I was thinking about the things I didn't have, I kept getting more of those things I didn't want. Right? Because I was focusing on why I wasn't going to be a good husband. I didn't put myself in a position to be with the right girl. It all came down to my thoughts. And I thought, it can't be that simple. It just can't be that simple. There's no way that it's that simple. And then the more I studied, I read a book called Think and Grow Rich. Anybody ever read that book or hear about it? Napoleon Hill? Same exact thing. This guy studies successful people. He lived with Thomas Edison, lived with Henry Ford, lived with Edward Jones, the founders of America. And they all said the same thing, basically. Didn't know each other, most of them. But he realized, after studying him for 20 years, he wrote this book. It took him 25 years for this project. The exact same thing applied. What they thought about constantly, their passion for something, their clearly defined purpose in their life, and then whether they believed they could go accomplish it is what determined whether they did it. So finally I was like, okay. All these books say the same thing. They're not just self-help. Clearly all these successful people, these billionaires and multimillionaires are doing it. I'm going to do it. And darned if my income didn't double. Here was what happened. It's 2000... I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I basically been relatively successful. I made my first $1 million before I was 30, which sounds really cool to say, right? Who wants to be able to say that? You made your first $1 million before, I don't care what day it is, right? I can help you with that. Because here's why. I did that, and I wasn't great yet at thinking. I just had a good sales job with a great company that showed me a great process that helped me to do that, essentially. But where my life got fun is after that. Not because I had a lot of money to do stuff. I was on a trip in Japan with the poor kids, the other guys that I grew up with, my best friend, his buddy, no money. And we're in Japan, we go snow skiing, Nagano, and we're sitting there, we're talking about our bucket list. Raise your hand if you have a bucket list. Anyone? Cool. Pretty good group. It's amazing what it'll do for you. If you don't have one, you should watch the movie, first off. It's a good movie, Bucket List. A couple of old guys that basically, they want to go accomplish some things before they kick a bucket, right? But make a list of your goals, of what you really want to accomplish before you die. So I do this. I make this list. And on there, I've got 80 things. I remember like it was yesterday. 80 things. None of them accomplished. Now, I've made some good money. I own a house at this time. But there's some things that are really true in my heart that I really, truly want, but I'm not doing. Why wouldn't we do that? Because we do things called if-then. Well, if I retire, then I'll do that. Or if I get some extra time, then I'll do that. And then the if never happens, and then you never do it. Right? So I said, fine. me and my buddies, we sit down, we go through, we pick out 10 things out of our bucket list. Going 200 miles an hour on a bullet train, right? And we're sitting there and we're going through the list and I'm like, how do you do this? And I picked, of those 10 things, I picked 3 that I wanted to do within the next year. So I set a deadline. So whenever you're doing goal setting, just a quick little, this whole meeting's not on goal setting, but when you're doing goal setting or you're doing a bucket list, don't try to do all 80 at one time. You just won't give enough energy to anything. Wherever your focus goes is where your energy flows. So narrow it down to about 10 things. Then pick 3 out of those 10 that you truly, truly want, that you think would influence your, help your whole life. Right? And then make a deadline. Without the deadline, a goal is just a dream. So put something on paper, make it very important to you, and then set a deadline. And then after that, start writing down what you would have to do to accomplish that goal. So I put some crazy ones on there. I mean, I had become a best-selling author. At this point, I'd never published anything, right? But that was one goal. And I got my buddy over here that is like a little brother to me. He's like, you can't just choose to be a best-selling author and become a best-selling. It doesn't work that way. I'm like, I'm gonna. That's what I'm doing. I might fail. I could fail, but I'm doing it. Become a best-selling author, become a public speaker. He's like, but you're terrified to speak in front of people. I was like, I know. That's why it's going to be my goal, right? If you don't chase your fears, fears will chase you. So I'm like, I'm going to go beat a couple of these things that I haven't been able to do. So and I'm going through this list of things, and I'm getting fired up. The third one was I wanted to meet Brian Tracy. That was my 1-year goals off my bucket list. And now all of a sudden I got obsessed. Obsessed, we've always heard, is a bad thing, right? And I don't mean like restraining order obsessed, okay? Being obsessed with something, if it's a healthy obsession, then it's exactly what you need in order to accomplish the really big things in life. You don't have to be obsessed to make $7 an hour. You don't have to be obsessed to go and flunk out of school. To become a multimillionaire, to have a wonderful, healthy, loving, my wife's sitting here, one of our daughters, to have a great, outstanding relationship, you have to be somewhat obsessed with making sure that that happens. Because if you ignore things, then it falls apart. All right? So I got obsessed with this. I was like, all right, I'm going to do these 3 things. I started making all these goals. I started telling people about it. And that's another thing. I started to tell people what I was going to go do, and you should have seen the looks. Oh, you're going to become a best-selling author? Good luck with that, all right? Oh, you're going to do that. You're going to meet Brian Tracy. The guy makes $50,000 an hour to speak, right? $50,000 an hour to do what I'm doing right here. You know what I got paid? Lamar University. I worked for about 5 minutes. I love speaking here, and I do make pretty good money. I make about $10,000 an hour when I go speak different places around the world. That's my fee. If you call me today, if it's international, you pay all my expenses, my airfare, my hotel. You can pay me $10,000 an hour to speak on whatever subject it is, right? I enjoy this more than I do those. But Brian Tracy makes 5 times that. Here's how I found out. I called his offices. I told my wife, I said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and knock this one off. I'm just going to meet Brian, because that's pretty easy. You can meet the guy. I've been to some of his conferences. I've seen him up on the stage. He does these big Get Motivated seminars they do sometimes, like Houston, places like that. They bring in Rudy Giuliani and Oprah and all these people, and they do a talk, and you pay $10, and they fill up a stadium and make millions. And I'm basically looking at him through binoculars. That's as close as I've been to him. So I call his offices, and I'm like, Brian Tracy, please. No, the other lady's like, do you have an appointment? And I'm like, no, I just want to talk to him for a minute. And I'm like, okay, well, we have an appointment, it looks like in June of next year, I'm like, all right, well then, can I just get 2 minutes with him? I just really want to tell him thank you, because he helped change my life. Psychology of Achievement, his book, changed the way I look at the world, and I'm very successful now. I want to just tell him thank you. She said, well, it's $50,000 an hour, right? And if you want, you have to pay the full $50,000 up front, and then you can break it up into increments. We can set up a 30-minute call. I said, did you say $50,000 an hour? She said, I'm like, you do dollar increments, give me 8 seconds or something. No, so it took me 3 months. I didn't give up. And that's one of the biggest keys. Don't give up. That's the obsession. It's going to be everybody in the room, everybody in your life. You're going to set some crazy goal, and they're going to laugh at you, and you need to be able to say, I'm going to do it anyway. Not because they're laughing at you, but if you can use that as a fuel, that's fine, right? But 3 months, I infiltrated his offices. I'm sending silver coins to the secretaries. I'm sending flowers to his wife at the office because I figure out I'm a little bit of a stalker, right? And so I'm like, from Facebook, I'm buying CD sets instead of buying them on his website. I'm buying them through his land office. I've got the whole thing mapped out. I mean, it's like a Mission Impossible episode. But I'm going to talk to this guy. So 3 months later, I'm sitting in my car with my wife, and it's this girl named Taya, who is the director of his events. She's like, Forrest, Brian wants to meet you. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. He's just so impressed with your perseverance, and you never gave up, and so he said, we're doing a thing this weekend, it's like 4 days away, in New Mexico with his inner circle. It's 12 business people. They're all multi-millionaires. Not like me, like 50 and 100 millionaires, right? I'm like this little bitty fish in a big pond, right, up against these people. But she's like, 12 people a year, they all pay $100,000 per event. So they pay $400,000 a year to be part of his inner circle. I said, but I just want to talk to him. Remember for a minute? She's like, no. You don't have to pay anything, just your airfare there. And I'm like, come on. Now I'm picturing there's going to definitely be like a 90-minute timeshare thing where I have to listen to it or something, or they give me a toaster with Brian's signature. That's what I'm picturing. She's like, no, he really appreciates, in fact, he's going to make a whole point about you at this meeting, about how you never gave up, you found a way to use your influence to connect to the people in his offices, and like, he studied you even though you hadn't been looking. And I'm thinking, this is too good to be true. This was Stormy, my wife. I'm Forrest, she's Stormy, those are our real names. Stormy's like, say yes. And I'm like, this can't be real. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, this is the things that failure mindsets say. They don't jump at an opportunity. All I do is pay airfare. He's paying my hotel, he's paying my food. I'm going to be with him for 4 days. I'm like, okay, yes. So from that moment, I knew I was going. Here's what I did. I didn't just go. I prepared. Preparation, guys, in Influence is about half the battle. I spent 30 hours probably, maybe more, listening to every audio CD for Brian Tracy that I could get on my hands on before I got there. I wanted to be able to finish the guy's sentences, right? Because that's how a lot of these successful people work. They say the same thing over and over again because it's what they know and it's what they're passionate about, and it's just second nature to them. So I felt like I could get an edge. And that's one of the things that we talk about a lot in our office. To be confident, you have to give yourself a mental edge. You have to find something that you can believe in yourself as a reason why you can have success when you didn't before, or when you didn't think you could before. So I applied all my little principles, right? I prepared, I got totally ready, I gave myself this edge, I got there, I walk in, he's in a little cocktail party, and he's like, you're Forrest, you've been charming all my secretaries, right? And introduces himself to me. He's like, can you help me figure out this iPad? And the guy's like 100, he uses a picture from 30 years ago for his books. And but he's like, can you help me with my iPad? We immediately had some common ground, right? We connected, I was able to help him, gave him value. If you only write down one law of Robert Cialdini's Influence, it's the law of reciprocity. That law by itself will make you a lot of money, a lot of friends, a lot of influence. Reciprocity is when I do something for you. If I say, hey, I really like your dress, and I mean it, she immediately feels good about herself and feels the desire to want to compliment me. She's looking for something on me to compliment if she believes it. If I'm like, hey, I like your dress. It looks like I'm wanting to do something for me, not so much for her. But if I'm just natural and I'm real, I'm like, hey, I really like your dress, a nice haircut. And I mean it, there's a natural, instinctual, subconscious behavioral reaction that happens inside of each person. That's why it's a law, it's not a theory. That makes you want to give back to that person. If I give somebody a silver coin, just hand it to them and say, hey, I just want you to have this. People start doing this, looking for something to give you. And it works that way between compliments, it works that way with jobs, it works that way with just about anything. So please remember the law of reciprocity. I helped Brian with his iPad. An iPad, basically, this is the button that turns it on, right? You swipe this. Do you have a code? You don't have a code. Should I tell you my code? I mean, the guy's like, you guys are a billionaire. I'm saying, how did you get here, right? But reciprocity happens. We connected, and all of a sudden, for every day, I positioned myself. So another little piece is work to be intentional in everything you do. I didn't just go in and let the event happen. I knew this was a small window. that I was going to be able to have influence over this guy who teaches influence, right? So I made sure I used his techniques that he teaches so that he could recognize it. That makes him feel good about himself. He realizes it's working. I made sure I sat right next to him in the boardroom, so I'm literally his right-hand man, right? And then I'm finishing his sentences for him, not in a brown-nosing, ooh, I know, Mr. Tracy, in a natural, comfortable, confident way. Well, what if you're not naturally a natural, comfortable, confident person? Does that mean you can't be? Or does it just mean that you haven't been? What do you think? What do y'all think? Can you become a natural, comfortable, confident person if you're not naturally, if you just aren't born one? You absolutely can. You can't if you say, no, you can't. You're right. You can't. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So what happens is the brain stops working when you tell it why it can't. It'll no longer try the solution if it doesn't believe there is one. Anybody play video games in here? I love video games. Partly because I didn't have a TV when I was like 15, right? So, but I had to make up for lost time. But I love video games. I'm not the guy that plays Call of Duty till 6 in the morning very often. But I do love the challenges of them. I love the excitement of them. I love the way solving problems, right? But life is a video game. Think about how many times in your life you've had a problem, right? And you thought, I'm not going to be able to do it. And you just gave up because you didn't think there was a solution that you could do. How many video games do they make where there's no solution? Level 3, you just can't get past level 3. The game's just over there. I know there's 20 levels, but you just can't get past level 3. No, there's always at least one because it's programmed that way. The programmer didn't, you know how many complaints you get if you had a video game that just had no resolution, no way to solve it? No, you just keep trying. I remember when my buddy he had a Nintendo and I was about 12, so I'd go over to his house as often as I could. And we were playing Zelda, I think, or something, right? It's maybe way past what anybody here knows, but we're playing Zelda. It's like 2-bit. I'm sure it's 8-bit or something, but it looks, it's terrible, graphics, but it's the best thing in the world to us on this little bitty black and white TV, right? And there's a part we couldn't get past. And we tried to ask our friends, but we didn't really have any friends. That didn't work. They'd tell us the wrong answer. So we didn't have money to buy a guidebook. So I called Nintendo. Right? I'm on this level. I'm trying to find where to put the bomb. Can you tell me what little piece of the stone I should put? Who is this? Forrest Hamilton. But I was wondering, have you ever played it? Do you know what level I'm talking? Because surely Nintendo knows, right? They did. They put me on the phone with this guy. Ended up living only about 5 miles from my house. Something big. And he's a video game tester. Apparently at Nintendo in Redmond, they have jobs during the summer. I got to get one because of this phone call I made. Well, you go in and you test the video games. You have to beat them multiple times and then you write up little reports on it. And so, it's talking about a dream job, right? Well, this guy, basically, now he's on, I can call him anytime, and he's like, oh, you put it here to do this. I figured it out because I didn't want to, I knew there was a solution, I just couldn't figure out how. Guess what would happen if that guy had gotten on the phone and told me where to put the bomb? I tried something else. We would have put a bomb every place you possibly could. So don't give up. There is a solution to whatever you want. Most of the things in your life you don't already have is because you gave up on them. Or you did the kick the can. I'll do that next year. I'll do that in 10 years. I'll do that if then. All right? So don't forget that. All right, so back to the story. So Brian, we finished our little 4-day weekend in New Mexico. It was awesome. At the very end, he's shaking everybody's hand. And he does this little speech. And I'll never forget it. He says, 100 times a year, somebody comes up to me at a seminar and they say, I'm going to be the next Brian Tracy. And I just smile and I nod. He said, but about once every 10 years or so, I meet somebody, and I know that they should be the next Brian Tracy. Of course, that's you. I'm just, you know how much that means to me. It was bad. I'm sure I had the ugly cry going, but I'll never forget it, because it was the greatest thing somebody could say to me. Here's what made it cool. It isn't that he said that to me. It isn't that I was the person, just this great person, and that's why he said it. It's what I knew, what my transformation was. I remembered what it felt like to have no value in my mind. I remembered very clearly, because I think we all, we look in the mirror, I'm still like a 12-year-old little boy when I look in the mirror, and then I'm like, whoa, I'm 40, and it's like right here, But at some point, we're still kids. We're still children inside, and so we kind of filter our life through that, right? Maybe you were fortunate enough to just already be confident. I don't know, everybody had an awkward phase, right? Whether your teeth were jacked up, or your glasses, or we all monsters, whatever it was, we had this awkward phase. Mine just happened to be for like 15 to 25 years, right? So when he said that to me, I thought, wow, validation, I am good. There was a part of me that even though I had had financial success, I had some business success, I had overcome some stuff, like that meant a lot to me. And then he said these crazy words. He said, how'd you like to write a book with me? I was like, whoa, yes. He's like, good, all right, well, your section of our book is due in 2 weeks. I was, I couldn't breathe. Because I'd written some things, never published them, but if you've ever thought about, and that's where this book came from, for the pushing to the front, he basically did a co-authored book, kind of like a Chicken Soup for the Soul, except it was each person had 3,000 to 5,000 words that they had to write, and that was their chapter in the book. We each got this chapter. And it was all people that started with nothing, mostly, that then pushed themselves to the front of their field. That's what's called pushing to the front. And he said, it's a perfect fit for you. We're already full, but I'm going to add you in because yours is a great story. I'm going to put you on the cover. And I'm like, yeah, but the stress of not feeling like I was good enough, you ask my wife, those were some of the most difficult weeks of my life. When I say I couldn't breathe, I couldn't write. But when it finally unlocked, and I had to do some positive self-talk. I had to influence myself. That's another piece of all you get out of this is to remember, you can't influence somebody outside of you much more than you influence yourself. At least not for very long. Pretty soon to be found out. So I had to influence myself. I had to remind myself why he wanted me to write the book. I had to remind myself what I had already overcome. I had to go through these positive self-talk pieces, and when it clicked, I went from not being able to write my name on the paper to like 50,000 words. I figured that is what I ended up writing. It just started flowing out of me. And then I got to pick the right 5,000 and put it away. Within 24 hours of its release, it was a #1 bestseller on Amazon.com for leadership, development, I can't remember which categories. But I remember thinking, wait a minute, does that mean I'm a best-selling author? And it does. I got this nice certificate in the mail, Forrest Hamilton, #1 bestseller with Brian Tracy. Well, I'm not too naive to realize or to think it got there because of how great my writing was. I know it got there because of this guy. He has 65 bestsellers. #1, I don't know if they're all #1s, but 65 bestsellers, like New York Times list. He's an unbelievable writer. Well, the lesson here is you can't always do it all yourself. You can't. You're not going to always be able to do exactly what you want all by yourself. Most of the time you can't, actually. You need help, whether it's from your wife, or your husband, or your parents, or your kids, or your coaches. All right? So we ended up doing that book, it's a bestseller. He calls me 6 weeks later and says, how'd you like to do another one? I'm like, whoa, it was a lot of stress and pressure. I'm doing radio spots, I'm doing TV spots. It's just, I'm trying to do my job. And I said, I don't think so. He goes, you're an idiot. So what do you mean? He goes, it's called The Only Business Book You'll Ever Need. He says, you know how good that title is? He said, here's the people that are in this book. Lee Steinberg. Anybody ever see Jerry Maguire? Movie Jerry Maguire? That movie was about this guy. He is Jerry Maguire, top NFL agent of all time. He has more #1 NFL draft picks than anybody in history. He had some of his clients were Roethlisberger, Aikman, Steve Young, Warren Moon. He's the who's who. He is the agent of NFL. So he was doing a chapter in it. Brian was doing a chapter in it. Robert Allen, who wrote Multiple Streams of Income. If you haven't read it, you should read it. It'll help you with your investments. So we do the book. It becomes a bestseller. We write a third book. It becomes a bestseller. All of a sudden, with very little work on my end, because of the influence of somebody that I was connected to, I'm a 3-time best-selling author, which then opened up many other things. That's where the film company came from. That's where the Shark Tank, getting to go on Shark Tank came from. All of the influence came from being passionate, not giving up, and then once in a while you have these little defining moments that change you. All right, and then being coachable. Be coachable. Don't get too big for your britches. I'm going to bring up a couple guys here. If you guys want to come up real quick, I'll introduce you to these two. How much time do we have? There's no clock up there. What time is it now? All right, so we got about 15, 20 minutes. So this is Peyton McVeigh. Peyton, everybody give him a round of applause. Corbin Carr, right? Both played football for Lamar. Both were in your seats just here within the last 1 to 3 years. They saw me speak. Peyton saw me speak. And well, here, you tell your story.
Okay. Yeah, so I was sitting exactly where you guys were 4 years ago. I graduated a year and a half ago. That's when I started working with Forrest. But like some of you probably are now, I was so enamored with his speech and like just so how he came from so little to accomplish what he had accomplished. Like, man, I want that, right? And I'm not even, I didn't grow up without running water and electricity, so I already have a head start. So started working for him about a year and a half ago. Some of the things that I've got to do. First off, make a bucket list if you don't have one. Got to go to Vegas. Got to go to Vegas again. Got to go to Louisville, Kentucky. Got to take my mom skydiving for her 52nd birthday. It was really cool. Taking my whole family to California for a ski trip this January and getting to do some really cool stuff. And it all comes through what he's talking about. The power of influence, your dominant thoughts create your realities. And now you get to go do some of the stuff that you've always wanted to do. And you just never knew how you'd get there. And so that's kind of the benefit that I've got through Forrest as a life coach and as a mentor is huge. And so if it's not Forrest, find somebody in your life that can do that for you.
Yep, it's good. Corbin?
And then my story, oh God, so cool. Standing up here, I'm giving the speech when I was sitting exactly where y'all were, right up there actually. And so my story's a little bit different. I didn't meet Forrest through his presentation, it was through Peyton. This is my roommate, played football with him. Roommate for a year. And he comes to me, he says, Corbin, man, you need to come work with me, you'll love it. And I said, what do y'all do? Gold and silver guys. No. Backed off. I said, that's not for me. Going to get a finance degree, going to do something out there. Well, he comes to me about a month later, and he says, look, just get an interview with Forrest. If you don't like it, continue what you're doing, but just give me an interview. I said, okay, I'm in. Did an interview with Forrest. I'd say it lasted 5 minutes into it. Okay, I'm sold. When do I start? He said, okay, we got to do this whole process. And the journey, I've been there about 7 months, and it's just having somebody there to guide you and, just really have an open connection with is just helped me so far. We're sitting there this morning in our business meeting, and a little uncomfortable me saying this, but I started tearing up because Forrest is looking at me, and growing up, wasn't the richest kid, wasn't the poorest kid. Just football brought me where I was, to college, and made it through. Well, he's sitting there, and he's saying, Corbin Carr, you will make $1 million working here. And so my heart's beating, I'm tearing up, I'm like, God, I worked so hard to get to where I'm at now, and somebody's finally telling me I'm there. I'm going to be there. And it's just such an emotional burst for me because it's happening. And I'm glad that I get to share it with Peyton and Forrest. And like Peyton said, even if it's not with Forrest, find somebody that you connect with and it can help you through your journey in life.
That's good. Thank you. We have about 15 minutes left. So here's what, the bottom line is y'all can't all work for me. All right, so what I do is I have a mentorship program that I do that's outside of Universal Point. So that's what I'm going to offer you. All right, I'm going to give you my email right now, and you can write it down. All right, or put it in your phone. It's Forrest@forresthamilton.com. It's pretty easy. Forrest with one R, but 2 R's would work too. You can set up that way. So Forrest@forresthamilton.com. If you want me to mentor, first off, does anybody, since we've been here, do you think that if I was to sit down with you and you tell me what your goals were, what you really wanted, do you think that I could help you? Raise your hand if you think I could help you in some way. It's okay if you don't. Right? All right, good. So it's the majority, right? I have coaches. I have mentors. I have a business coach that lives in Las Vegas. An amazing guy who was on ABC's Secret Millionaire. And he taught me a ton about business planning, about being able to look at a business. By the way, each person is their own business. You are your own business. And be able to look at each person and their business and what their goals are and then cut out the stuff that's in the way and add the stuff that they need. It's a pretty simple process. So I'm not going to charge you for it. There's no charge. The only thing that you have to do, if you want this, has anybody gone through this process where you actually, other than the pavement, Corbin, where got mentored from me? You?
I haven't been mentored. I think I know what you're about to say, and I've done all that.
Okay. So you got to be very persistent. You got to be like I was with Brian Tracy. All right? You have to send me a minimum of 5 emails. It doesn't go like this. Email 1, send. Email 2, send. You're going to have to make them something that is of value. So it's going to start with just this. Your name, who you are, that you came, you saw me speak at Lamar, passport, and what your top 10 goals are. So your name, you don't have to give me all your personal information, you don't have to give me your address, I'm not trying to build a database list here, okay? But your name, what your top 10 goals are. The second email, I don't care if you do it the same day, it's fine with me. I'm not going to respond. You're going to get very insecure on about email 3 or 4. Because you're going to think, hey, he's not really going to do it. He's not really going to respond. He doesn't want me to email him anyway. I'm probably bothering him. You're going to go through that process. I know Peyton did. Right? But if you'll do it, and first off, if I didn't respond, just going through this process will help you in your life. I promise. So you're going to do 10 goals. Then your second email is going to be the top 3 things out of there that you want to accomplish over the next year. That's email number 2. The third email is going to be, what are some ways that you're going to go accomplish that? You're going to get deeper right now into this process than you ever have, just in this simple process, right? So number 1, top 10 goals, who you are. Number 2, the 3 of the top 10 that you've got in there that you want to accomplish over the next year. The third email is exactly how, not to say exactly, but some of the ways that you are going to accomplish that. Email 4 and 5, I'm going to leave up to you. I don't care what they are. My guess is you'll already have gotten some stuff from it. Sometimes I'm drawn so quickly to somebody, like based on how they write their email, how passionate it is. I did break my rule for a couple of people, a guy and a girl in the last session, and I emailed them after about 3. Don't get your feelings hurt if I don't do that with you. Stay persistent, because I promise I can help you. So here's what I'm offering. After you go through the 5, if you don't see the value in this, I understand, but if you go through the 5, I will do a minimum of 1 15-minute, either a lunch with the guys and me, or a private phone session, 15 minutes, I'll do some mentorships with you. All right? 15 minutes on the phone. If you like what you get out of it and you do the things we talk about, I'll do some more. I'm not going to spend, probably the third class I think I did here, I had like 75, it was almost completely full, I had like 75 people respond, and then it got down to where there was about 8 that did jump through all the hoops, right? And I spent my entire Saturday doing these sessions, and my wife's like, hey, you just worked all week, and now you're coming home and doing all that. But I want to help you. I really do. This isn't just a game I'm playing. I really do want to help you, but you have to be persistent. If you do want to work for us, Universal Coin, check us out. It's a $100 million a year, roughly, gold and silver business, one of the largest in the world. So whether you want to be in sales, whether you want to be in marketing, whether you want to be in customer service, or whether you want to work in the IT department, I mean, we have 150 employees right here in Beaumont. So we love to hire from Lamar if at all possible. So send me your resume if you want to. That's totally fine. I'll get that to our HR department. But explore it. And then go through this process. I implore you to go through it. And even if you don't do it, maybe just do it with your buddy if you want to. But make yourself go through some goal setting. 97% of the people in the U.S. and in the world never even write down their goals. Of the 97% that don't ever write down their goals, how do you achieve something that isn't a goal that you've set for yourself? I mean, if you aim for nothing, and that's what you get. But of the 3% that write them down, it's like less than 1% of those actually go into the next step, which is the deadline, and persevere hard enough. And then that's usually the people that sort of run our world, not just financially. Emotionally, the happy people that you meet. I mean, I've met a lot of very wealthy people that are very unhappy. I've met a lot of very, very poor people that are very happy. The one thing that I find that connects all of them is that they're very clear about what they want. The happy ones are clear. They understand what they want, and they're growing on a daily basis. All right? So, wrap it all up. How to Influence. Dr. Robert Cialdini. Read that book if you want to learn more about influence and persuasion. Here are the 6 different, I told you I'd give you this, so I will. The 6 principles that Cialdini talks about are reciprocity, Likability. People will not usually buy you or from you if you're just not likable. Doesn't mean you have to be naturally funny, or you have to be witty, or you have to be you don't have to be kind even. You just have to find a way to be likable, right? So if that's not a skill that you have, work on it. Consistency. People will buy from you, and when I say buy, I just mean you go into get an interview for a job, and if you go in and you can learn about the interviewer and about the business and what their values are, what their passions are, and then you can put yourself in a position to show them that you are that also, it's hard for them to not hire you. That's what consistency means. People will make actions to maintain consistency in what they portray. Not getting too deep into that, but it's a valuable, you got to really dig into that one. Social proof. It's huge. I mean, I think we all know that if you've got 100 people lined up and 99 of them all say that thing's blue and you're looking at it and it's yellow, you start at a certain point you start to question if maybe your eyes are messed up. That social proof is a powerful, powerful thing in our lives. Scarcity. I don't know if you've ever looked at QVC, but it's crazy. They'll have a coin show on. I sell coins for a living. We've got $10 million in our vault of this exact same coin, and it says there's 10 left, there's 9 left. And I'm like, maybe I should get one. Scarcity is amazing what it does to us, right? Even if we know it's not the right thing, is that you don't want to miss out. So pay attention to that when you're working to influence others. And the last one's authority. Cialdini did a test where he had a guy walk up in a security guard outfit that he bought at like a Halloween store and say, hey, go stand over there. And like 87% of them are like, well, immediately. I mean, the guy's, it's clearly a fake, uniform, but just that uniform of authority.
To pay the toll.
What's that?
To pay the parking meter.
Right. And so the person without, though, same guy, no uniform, hey, go stand over there. Screw you. But like 98% didn't do it. So authority. Those who we deem are an authority in our lives tend to have, so how can you be an authority? The only way to become an authority in your life is to work really hard at it, to understand what you're trying to go accomplish and who you're trying to be so that you can then sell that to somebody else. So I'm going to close with some questions. I'm going to give away a couple books. And who has the first question? You can ask about anything we just talked about, from influence to business. Yes?
How old did you approach it?
First book was in 2010, so I was 34. I wrote my first book. Okay. Yes?
What exactly is your business? You said, I don't know what you said.
Universal coin and bullion. So we do gold and silver investments. So some people, if they want to invest in stock, they want a little bit of gold as like an insurance against it. Sometimes gold goes up when stocks go down, right? Some people like it because they're cool, historical. We have some coins right now that were inside of the San Francisco Mint in 1906 when the big earthquake came and destroyed it. So some people collect, some people invest. So that's pretty much, but it's crazy. I have hundreds of thousands of clients around the U.S. that do it. Yes?
How old were you when you made your first million?
27? It was 27 or 28. Yes?
What were you on Shark Tank for?
So, Jason Hansen is a former CIA.
People have not heard that question.
She asked, what was I on Shark Tank for? I told here's why I was on Shark Tank. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to be on Shark Tank this year.
I love Shark Tank.
Right? I'm going to be on Shark Tank. She's like, okay, what are you going to sell? I was like, I have no idea. But I just love that show. I just love the business acumen. I love hearing, I'm going to be on there. And I don't have a product, right? So I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to be on there? I start telling people, I'm going to be on Shark Tank. I'm going to be on Shark Tank. They're like, for what? I was like, I don't know. But it was something I wanted, right? It's on my bucket list. I got to be on Shark Tank. So I run into this guy. I'm speaking at this thing called the National Academy of Best-Selling Authors, and it's in Hollywood. And I do this talk, about 5 minutes. I do this talk, and I'm backstage. I'm in the green room. I'm getting ready for it. It's only like a 15-minute talk, right? But this guy walks in. He's wearing black suit, white shirt, thin black tie, and I'm like, waiter. I'm like, hey, excuse me, can you give me a glass of water? He goes, sure. And so he walks out. I'm like, not a waiter, right? Comes back in, he's got the water. I'm like, you're not a waiter, are you? He was like, no, I'm one of the speakers. I'm after you. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I figured you were, FBI or, whatever. And he's like, CIA. I just told them FBI. That's like the worst thing you can do. You know? And so I do my talk. Well, then I go make sure to listen to his because now I've got negative reciprocity. All right, I've done something that I feel hurts him. So now I've got to find a way to like make the scale even. Right? So now I'm like, oh, maybe I can buy his product if he's selling something. Like it drew me to feel that way. It's not a big deal. The guy laughed about it afterwards, but I still felt this desire. So this guy was in the CIA for 10 years. He was a police officer in Baltimore. Terrible. I mean, lots of crime. Got tired of CIA. Couldn't talk about what he did all that much, but clearly didn't like it. So he gets out and he starts a business teaching people. It's called spyescape.com is one of his websites. But he teaches people how to have awareness, how to, if you're ever kidnapped, how to like break out of duct tape, how to get out of zip ties, how to pick a lock on handcuffs with a bobby pin. I mean, yeah, like at one point I'm on this spy ranch in Utah. I'm driving backwards 30 miles an hour with a giant army truck is chasing us, and I have to whip a 180 and it go, or if the truck actually hits you. I mean, he has like these evasion courses, just really cool spy stuff, right? And so he's up there talking about it. I'm like, yeah, I gotta buy this for sure. So I buy his little package. It's 3 days in Vegas. The first 2 days they teach you all this stuff. How to escape, how to be aware of what's happening, why to never get in the car, like they teach you all the numbers, all the data, all this. The third day they kidnap you. They throw you in a trunk, right? Ours was different. We had a class of 20, so we're in this martial arts gym on the Las Vegas Strip, and we're all doing these different knife moves and stuff. They teach you if somebody's coming at you, like they say, get off the X, and so like the spot that the person's going, and really cool stuff that I would have probably never learned. And right in the middle of it, all these guys bust in with masks and guns, and they're like, get down, get down. We're like, oh. Like, is this real? Is this not real? Better treat it like it is. So they individually kidnap you. They put you in a car. They drive around. You got a bag over your head.
Close the trunk. You have to take out of your handcuffs.
Yep.
You have to get out of your handcuffs while you're in the trunk.
Yep.
And you're blindfolded.
So I'm blindfolded. I get my bobby pin out. I pick the lock based on what he taught me. Get out, and there's a piece of paper that tells you what to do. You have like 5 missions that you have to accomplish. You have to practice social engineering. Like one of the tasks was I had to go to a homeless person on a bridge and get him to give me $5. Think about that for a second. Think about asking a homeless dude to give you $5. Hey, that's kind of weird, but can I have $5? You do know I'm the homeless one, right? Right? It's a trip. You got to do all this stuff in case things got bad. You're ever in a bad situation. Well, at the end of it, if you survive all the way through, the course is free. It's like $2,000. You get the course free. So now it's like my competitiveness is kicking in, right? And you have to change clothes. They have hunters and trackers. They got people up on top of buildings with binoculars. They find you. They radio down to the former SEALs, the police officers, the CIA guys that are no longer in the business, and they're the ones that if they are able to touch you, you're dead. Game over. So we're talking about some adrenaline. I get my heart racing just remembering that day. So, 2 or 3 times they were within 15 feet of me. And I had to try to do what I was trained. So I got through it, got the course for free. It was awesome. He almost hit me with his car at the very end, Jason himself. Anyway, at the end of it, we're talking, and I used my influence. I said, hey, I noticed that you recommend some silver and gold in your little 72-hour survival kit. That's what I do. I'd like to be your supplier for it. And what I'll do for you is I'm going to write a free article in your survival newsletter. I'm going to charge you what I normally would charge, but I'm going to write a column to go in there. He's like, great! And I'm thinking, I would have paid to be in this guy's newsletter, right? Because it's 25,000 people, and I'm basically getting to put myself in front of them. But because of the way I worded it and the influence I used, now, he said, we'll try it out and see how it goes. Well, at the end of my article, I wrote, in next month's article, right? And he goes, I see what you did there. I like it. So now I've been doing it for 2 years. So he called me and says, hey, I'm on Shark Tank. I want you to come on there with me. So I didn't get on the main one with all the sharks. The second one with the follow-up episode, we filmed for 15 hours. Damon John, founder of FUBU, is the one that bought his business, so I got to spend 10 of the 15 hours. He was late, and I had to fly in on his private jet a little late. But I got to spend 10 hours filming with Damon, doing all the stuff at the Spy Ranch. At one point, you see me jump out of a car at 30 miles an hour after picking the lock and do a little roll and run off into the cactus. We're in Utah. That was like my little fame piece. 15 hours of filming for 40 seconds on TV. My wife Stormy got to do it too.
4 seconds.
Yeah. And
Look, we saw your back.
Yeah.
Your hair, we knew it was you.
But it was a blast. It was a fun experience. The crazy thing is though, Do I get on there if I don't say I'm going to be on Shark Tank? I don't think so. Here's why. Because when I'm talking to Jason, I'm like, hey, I know you were on Shark Tank. If you ever need something or if there's ever any filming, like I put myself out there. I made it clear to him, to the universe, that I wanted to be, that I was going to be on Shark Tank. And then in his, what's called the reticular cortex, part of your brain, he remembered that. He was going to have somebody there. Oh yeah, Forrest. It's not coincidence, guys. It's very real. Be very clear about what you want. Don't give up on it, and then make sure you use a coach. So, last question.
So, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge when you're trying to influence someone?
Your amygdala. It's the part of your brain that creates homeostasis. It wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you in your comfort zone. So you have to just be aware of your amygdala and what it's not the devil. The amygdala is not mean. In fact, it's trying to protect you. It's the thing when you're driving along the road and you think, maybe I should pull into oncoming traffic. It says, no! Right? It's the thing that says, don't jump off of that bridge into the water. Right? We don't know what's down there. It keeps you safe. It also keeps you safe from the standpoint of, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go do what I dream of doing and I've always wanted to go do. No. Stay safe. So, when you go to influence somebody, it's hyperactive. Because you're doing something uncomfortable. You're saying, you should do this. And they're saying, no, I want to do this. And you're having to get back in there and say, no, here's why. But the mind stops you unless you're prepared. Unless you realize what it's doing, you're going to stop short. There's a book called 3 Feet from Goal. Great book. Most people stop 3 feet, 3 no's, 3 tries from exactly what it is that they want. And those are the good ones. A lot of people never get started. But when you're really trying to go do it, it's understanding your mind. It's realizing it's not trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you, and then being obsessed enough to overcome it. All right? So everybody knows what to do. If you want to reach out to me, you can. I'd love to mentor you. I'd love to have you work with us at Universal Coin. And that's it. So thank you guys so much.